Well, the day has finally arrived. Here is Week 8 of the 2019 DCFL season, as we're now officially halfway through the year. So as we take a look at the standings when we last left off, in the Eastern Conference, New York still leads even though they suffered their first loss, followed by my Charm right behind, and then the Charlotte Bobcats for the third seed, and Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and Philadelphia right behind. And then in the Western Conference, Indianapolis still remains undefeated, leading the division by a mile, with Chicago right behind, then Oakland, followed by LA, then Phoenix, and then Seattle. So we start off the week with my Charm visiting the Oakland Pillagers, as my team has won 6 in a row, and with a win and hopeful New York loss, I can take the lead in the division. Meanwhile, Oakland suffering a 3-game losing streak as they're now tied with Oakland for that, LA for that last spot in the playoffs for the Western Conference. They need to win here to keep up with LA. And Oakland dominated to win it 30-17 to get back to 500, as they've already beaten their record from last year. As my Charm, oh man, absolutely demolished. We got 3 interceptions, but we suffered a sack, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. And our offense couldn't get anything going, barely even got 300 yards, whereas Oakland out of nowhere got almost 500 yards of offense. It sucks that we lost, but I knew eventually it was going to happen. There was no way it was going to keep that 6-game win streak going for long. Tough loss, and unfortunately, not only did I choke away possibly that lead that we could have gotten, now I got to worry about falling all the way to the 3rd seed if Charlotte wins. But with this win, Oakland maintains their 3rd seed in the playoffs now. And then speaking of Charlotte, that's our next game as they visit the Seattle Tenyo, as Charlotte has won 3 in a row now and has a chance, unfortunately, to take that 2nd seed away from me since I lost. Seattle, of course, trying to end their 3 or 4 game losing streak and get back into contention of playoffs because it's not going well for them whatsoever. And Charlotte got in a defensive struggle, 18-17, as Seattle dominated throughout the entire game until they let Charlotte get that last field goal to take the lead. And 2 times, Seattle got the ball, went to the end zone, but turned it over. In fact, with final few minutes remaining in the game, Charlotte was going down to seal it, but they had a turnover on them. Seattle took it all the way to the red zone, and then unfortunately they turned it over when they should have just gone for the field goal right then and there, and they could have won it. Tough loss for Seattle, another blown opportunity as their offense once again couldn't get anything going. As Charlotte, how about that now? 6-2. I think they've already matched their win total from last year or something like that, but now they have the 2nd seed in the division. And then it's the Phoenix Devils visiting the Jacksonville Scouts, as Phoenix is still suffering their 2-game losing streak. Meanwhile, Jacksonville finally got their first win last week to end their losing streak, as they're trying to win out and catch up in the Eastern Conference. And Phoenix dominated on the road to win it 38-18 in a weird game where Jacksonville got more yards than Phoenix, and they converted on half of their 3rd down percentage, yet they got completely and utterly blown out. And I really don't get it, because defensively, both teams got 3 sacks, but no interceptions or fumbles or anything. So that's really, really weird. They got a whole bunch of offense and no real pressure on defense, but for some reason, Jacksonville just could not get any points out of it, whereas Phoenix had no trouble getting points, as they've dominated on the road, 3-5, as Jacksonville now continues to slide as they're 1-7. And then after that, we head out to New York, as the New York Gangsters host the LA Mean Green Machines. The only other interesting game for the week is LA has now won 2 in a row, on the verge of getting to 500, although they'll still be out of the playoffs right now. Meanwhile, New York suffered their first loss last week in a defensive struggle, as they need a win right here to keep up with Baltimore losing and Charlotte catching up. They need a win here to keep ahead of them. And New York would get in a defensive struggle 24-19 as LA dominated all the way up to the 4th quarter. They had New York's number, completely shut down their offense, but unfortunately they couldn't stop turning over the ball in the 4th quarter to allow New York to get 10 needed points to get the win, as they are now 7-1, beating their win total from last year, as LA suffered a tough loss, and because of Phoenix winning, LA falls all the way down to the 5th seed now. Yikes. And then we head out to Pittsburgh, as the Pittsburgh Power host the Indianapolis Rabbits in a matchup between 2 playoff teams from last year, as Indianapolis still remains undefeated, trying to keep up against Chicago and Oakland now, who won today. We'll have to see what happens with Chicago. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, nothing is going right for them. started off 2-0 in overtime games, and they've now lost 5 in a row, including giving Seattle and Jacksonville their only win this year. Yikes, nothing, and I mean nothing is going their way to start the year. Maybe they can finally get the momentum going and win here? And Indianapolis would destroy Pittsburgh 44-28 after Pittsburgh dominated Indianapolis in the first quarter, going up 14-0 at one point, but after that, they were just completely and utterly shut down offensively and defensively. Couldn't do anything going until the fourth quarter, but by then it's too late. And how about this? Pittsburgh just slightly got barely under more yards than Indianapolis. Indianapolis couldn't even get 400 yards. Last 2 weeks, their offense has been struggling. But hey, halfway through the season, they're still undefeated. Could they keep it up another games and go 16-0? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But right now, it's not looking good for them to have 2 hard-fought games in a row now. And then finally, we head out to Chicago as the Philadelphia Sonics visit the Chicago Staleys, as Philadelphia has now lost 5 in a row and nothing's going right for them. Meanwhile, Chicago has now won 3 in a row and trying to maintain that second seed in the Western Conference and try and keep up with Indianapolis somehow, as they've been really good these last bunch of weeks after that 49-3 thrashing in week 1. And Chicago would destroy Philadelphia 52-10, as Philadelphia had absolutely no presence in this game whatsoever, despite the 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, which means they had a better defense today than Chicago. Absolutely destroyed. Chicago put up over 500 yards of offense. Philadelphia couldn't even get 325, as they were absolutely atrocious in this game. Hey, I guess that's what happens when you trade away a legendary defense, as they're now 1-7. Chicago now 6-2 and maintaining that second seed in their conference. And we now take a look at the standings, In the Eastern Conference, a lot's changed as New York still maintains the number 1 seed, but Charlotte moved up to the number 2 seed as my charm fell all the way down to the 3rd seed. That sucks. As Pittsburgh still remains the 4th, and Jacksonville got to the 5th seed as Philadelphia fell to the 6th seed. Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, Indianapolis still leads with Chicago 2nd place, and Oakland with that win now maintains their 3rd seed, as LA moved up to the 4th seed as LA fell to the 5th seed, and Seattle continues their slide as they are last place in that division. And then we finish off the video by taking a look at the schedule for week 9, and oh boy, some big matchups, including the first one. My charm hosting the Charlotte Bobcats with the number 2 seed on the line in the division. That is crucial. I have to win that one. And then the Battle of the Tanks, as Jacksonville visits Philadelphia, then Pittsburgh visits New York, and then the Western Conference. Big playoff matchup in that regard as Oakland visits Indianapolis, and then Phoenix visits LA. Whoever wins that game will probably maintain that the 4th seed for the rest of the year, maybe try to get that 3rd seed, and finally Seattle at Chicago. And with that, we are officially halfway through the 2019 DCFL season. I can't wait to see what the second half of the season has. So see you guys next time.